I saw my own grave, part 1. The dream that knew mine may have never believed that dreams mean anything. To me, dreams were just broken images, random thoughts stitched together by a tired brain. Faces melted into places, memories mixed with fear, and by morning everything faded. That belief kept me sane for most of my life, until the night my dream spoke my name. It began on a Tuesday. Nothing special. No storm, no bad news, no ominous feeling crawling up my spine. I worked late, ate leftover food, scrolled my phone until my eyes burned, and finally went to bed around 1:30 a.m. I remember checking the time because insomnia had become my quiet companion. The room was dark, except for the soft orange glow of the streetlights slipping through the curtains. I closed my eyes, expecting the usual emptiness. Instead, I woke up standing. Not in my room. Not in my house. I was standing at the entrance of a graveyard. The air was cold, unnaturally cold. The kind that doesn't just touch your skin, but settles inside your bones. A thick fog hugged the ground, curling around my feet like something alive. The sky above was colorless, neither night nor day. Just an endless dull gray. Tall iron gates stood before me. Rusted, crooked, ancient. I knew this place. That realization terrified me more than the graveyard itself. I've been here before. I whispered. My voice sounded wrong, too clear, too loud. As if the fog itself was listening. The gates creaked open on their own. I didn't touch them. I didn't want to. But my body moved forward anyway, as if the decision had already been made long before I arrived. Inside, the graveyard stretched endlessly. Rows upon rows of gravestones leaned at awkward angles, some cracked, some sinking into the earth, as though the ground was slowly swallowing the dead back again. Names were carved into the stones. But I avoided looking at them. Some instinct screamed at me not to. As I walked deeper, the fog thickened. Every step felt heavier, like the air was resisting my movement. There were no sounds, no wind, no birds, no insects. Just silence so complete it felt violent. Then I heard footsteps, not behind. Ahead. Slow, deliberate, heavy. My heart began to race. I wanted to turn around to run, but my legs refused to listen. My breath came out in short, sharp gasps as I followed the sound, deeper into the graveyard. That's when I saw it. One grave stood apart from the rest. Fresh earth, dark and damp. The soil looked recently disturbed, like it had been dug only hours ago. A single gravestone stood at its head, clean and unweathered. Untouched by time, I stopped walking. Every cell in my body screamed at me to stay where I was, but my eyes betrayed me. They moved on their own, slowly scanning the smooth stone. At first, I couldn't read the name. The letters blurred, shifting like they were underwater. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. The name became clear. My name, perfectly carved. Every letter sharp and deep. Here lies Adrian Halen. My knees buckled, and I fell to the ground. No, I whispered. This isn't funny. This isn't possible. My birth date was there. And beneath it, a death date. The date was blank. Just an empty space, waiting. I stared at it for what felt like hours, my mind unraveling thread by thread. The cold seeped into my skin, but I barely felt it. All I could see was my name etched into stone like a final accusation. Then something shifted. The ground behind me crunched. I wasn't alone. I turned slowly, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. A man stood a few feet away. Tall, thin, wrapped in a long, dark coat that looked far too heavy for the still air. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes were wrong. They were too calm. Too knowing. You came earlier than expected, he said. His voice was deep and soft, like someone speaking inside a church. Who are you? I demanded, forcing the words out. He ignored my question and glanced at the grave. At my grave, still unfinished, he murmured. That's good. Why is my name there? I shouted. What is this place? He finally looked at me. And smiled. A warning, he said simply, before I could ask anything else. He stepped back into the fog and disappeared. As if he had never been there at all. The silence rushed back in. The fog thickened, and then woke up. I bolted upright in my bed, drenched in sweat, gasping for air like I had been underwater. My heart slammed violently against my ribs. The orange streetlight still glowed through the curtains. My phone buzzed softly on the bedside table. 3:17 a.m. It was just a dream, I muttered, pressing a trembling hand to my face. But my voice shook. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection looked normal, tired eyes, pale skin, nothing unusual. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me back. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day, I tried to forget. Work helped at first. Emails, meetings, meaningless conversations, normal life wrapping itself around me like a shield. By the time evening came, the dream felt distant, unreal, until my coworker, Mark, stopped by my desk. "Rough night?" he asked. I forced a smile. "You could say that. You look like you saw a ghost." The words sent a chill through me. That night, exhaustion dragged me back to bed, whether I wanted it or not. I told myself the dream wouldn't return. I was wrong. The moment I closed my eyes, the fog returned. This time, I was already inside the graveyard, closer, much closer. The iron gate stood far behind me now, barely visible through the mist. The grave was no longer at a distance, it was right in front of me. My name gleamed unnaturally under the gray sky, but something had changed. The blank space beneath the birth date was no longer empty. A number had appeared, not a full date, just a single digit. To my breath caught in my throat. "What does that mean?" I whispered. The footsteps returned. Behind me this time. Slow. Patient. I didn't turn around. I already knew who it was. "You're dreaming," I said aloud, my voice shaking. "This isn't real." The man spoke from behind me. "Dreams don't carve stone," he said. I felt his breath on my ear, cold, lifeless. "Then what is this?" I demanded. "A countdown." I spun around. He was inches from my face now. Up close, I saw cracks in his skin, like dried clay. His eyes reflected the graveyard, the fog, the grave, but not me. "You saw your grave," he continued calmly. "That means it can still be avoided." "Avoided how?" He stepped back, gesturing toward the stone. "Pay attention." The fog surged forward, swallowing everything. I woke up screaming. Duh. Clock read 3:17, a.m.ma. Phone vibrated. A notification. Hadn't touched it all night. The screen lit up with a single message from an unknown number. "The grave has moved closer." I dropped the phone. Because deep down, I already knew the truth. That dream wasn't showing me the future. It was warning me. And whatever was waiting in that graveyard had already begun walking toward me. Part 2. The grave that moves closer. Didn't pick up my phone for a long time. It lay on the floor beside my bed. Screen dark now, silent, as if it had never buzzed at all. My hands were shaking. My mouth felt dry, like I'd swallowed dust. The room felt wrong, stretched thin, as if reality itself had been disturbed and hadn't yet settled back into place. "It's just stress," I told myself. Lack of sleep, hallucinations. I repeated the words until they lost all meaning. Eventually, I picked up the phone. No new messages. No unknown number in my recent calls. Nothing. For a moment, relief washed over me. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe my brain, already poisoned by the dream, had created the notification. Then I noticed the time. 3:17, a.m. I didn't go back to sleep. By morning, the world looked normal enough. Sunlight spilled through the windows. Cars passed outside. Birds chirped, unaware that my sense of reality had cracked wide open. I called in sick to work. I spent the day trying to distract myself, cleaning the apartment, watching mindless videos, anything to avoid thinking about fog and gravestones and men with dead eyes. But every few minutes, my thoughts drifted back to the number .2, a countdown. To what? Death. Some part of me wanted to laugh at how absurd it all sounded. Grown man, terrified by a dream. But the fear wasn't logical. It lived deeper than logic, curling in my chest like a living thing. By afternoon, I made a decision. I needed answers. I opened my laptop and searched for the graveyard, not by name. I didn't know its name, but by description. Old iron gates. Endless fog. No identifiable landmarks. It was a ridiculous task, and I knew it. Still, I searched. Hours passed. I found photos of hundreds of graveyards. Read articles about recurring dreams, psychological breakdowns. Sleep paralysis. One forum post caught my attention. Recurring graveyard dreams. Is the grave always the same? I clicked it. The post was years old. The user described a dream eerily similar to mind fog silence. A grave that didn't belong. The replies were mostly dismissive, until I reached the last comment. If the grave has your name, it's not a dream. It's a warning. Count the changes. When it starts moving, time is running out. The username was deleted. I slammed the laptop shut. My phone buzzed. I froze. Slowly. I picked it up. A text message. Unknown number. You shouldn't search for it. My blood ran cold. How do you know? I typed back before I could stop myself. 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Because you're not supposed to understand yet. I stared at the screen. Anger cutting through my fear. Who are you? I typed. The reply came instantly. Someone who ignored the warning. I didn't know what to say to that. The phone buzzed again. Check your window tonight. That evening, dread settled over me like a second skin. I tried calling a friend, but the words wouldn't come. What would I even say? Hey, I think my dreams are predicting my death? So I waited. Night came slowly, dragging shadows across the walls. By 2:30 a.m., I was sitting on my couch, lights on, heart pounding. I kept glancing at the window, half expecting to see fog pressed against the glass. At 3:16 a.m., my phone buzzed, unknown. Now, I stood, legs stiff, and walked toward the window. Outside, the streetlight flickered. And beyond it, the fog. It rolled unnaturally fast, swallowing the street, the parked cars, the neighboring buildings. Within seconds, the entire world outside my window was gone. My reflection stared back at me, pale and terrified. Then I saw something else, a shape forming in the fog. Iron bars. A gate. No, I whispered. The graveyard gate stood where my street should have been. I stumbled back, heart racing, breath shallow. This isn't real, I said. I'm awake. My phone vibrated violently in my hand. Unknown. It's getting closer. The lights flickered. The room darkened. And the floor beneath my feet vanished. I was standing in the graveyard again. This time, there was no confusion. No doubt, the fog wrapped around me instantly, cold and suffocating. The iron gates were gone. No entrance. No exit. I was already inside. And the grave. The grave was closer than before. Only a few steps away. My name burned into the stone. The number beneath. It had changed. .1. My heart pounded in my ears. 1 day? I whispered. 1 hour? 1 minute? The man stepped out of the fog. The same coat. The same cracked skin. The same empty eyes. You're running out of chances, he said. Chances to do what? I snapped. Fear had twisted into anger. You tell me this is a warning, but you don't tell me what I'm supposed to change. He studied me quietly. Do you remember the night of the accident? He asked. My blood turned to ice. I've never been in an accident. He tilted his head. Not yet. Images flashed through my mind. Headlights, rain, screaming brakes. None of them were real memories, yet they felt painfully vivid. What happens when the number reaches 0? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the grave and brushed his fingers across the stone. The earth shifted beneath it, the soil cracking softly. The grave moved, not by much, but it moved closer to me. You wake up, he said. Or you don't. The fog thickened again, crawling up my legs, my chest, my throat. I gasped. Can I stop it? I shouted. He looked at me one last time. That depends, he said, on whether you're willing to remember how you died. The world collapsed into darkness. I woke up on my apartment floor, gasping for air. The lights were on. The window showed my street again empty. Quiet. Normal. My phone lay beside me. One unread message. Unknown. Tomorrow. You start remembering, or the grave finishes moving. I stared at the message until the sun began to rise, because somewhere deep inside my mind, something had shifted, a memory broken, buried, and bleeding through. And I knew one terrifying truth. I hadn't just seen my grave. I'd already been there once before. *** Part 3. People who remember my diet. The first memory came to me in pieces. Not like a dream. Not like imagination. Like a wound reopening. I was standing in my kitchen, staring at the coffee machine, when the smell hit me. Burnt rubber and rain. My head throbbed violently, and suddenly, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was on a road. Dark, wet, empty. Headlights blinded me. A horn screamed. Metal twisted. Pain exploded through my chest. I collapsed to my knees. Gasping. When the vision faded, I was back in my kitchen. Coffee spilled across the counter, my hands shaking uncontrollably. That didn't happen, I whispered, but my body knew it had. I didn't go to work that day either. Instead, I did something far more dangerous. I searched my own name, not on social media. On the news. At first, nothing came up. Just a few irrelevant links, a LinkedIn profile, an old comment I'd left on a forum years ago. Relief flickered inside me. Then I adjusted the date range. 2 years ago. And there it was. Local news article. Man critically injured in late night collision. My heart pounded as I clicked it. The photo loaded slowly. The image was grainy, taken at night. A mangled car wrapped around a lamppost. Police lights frozen mid-flash. I scrolled down. The victim, 29-year-old Adrian Hawley, was pronounced dead at the scene, but was later revived by emergency responders. Authorities report the incident occurred at 3:17 a.m. under unclear circumstances. I felt sick. Dead. Pronounced dead. Revived. My hands trembled as I read the rest. No suspects. No explanation. Case closed. I slammed the laptop shut. That's impossible, I muttered. I would remember that. But I didn't, and that terrified me more than anything else so far. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. You found it. I didn't bother denying it. Yes, I typed. I was dead. Seconds passed. For 3 minutes and 17 seconds. My throat tightened. Why don't I remember? Another pause. Then, because you weren't meant to come back. Anger flared again. Then why did I? This time, the reply took longer. Someone made a mistake. Before I could ask who, another message appeared. People are going to start recognizing you. My blood ran cold. What does that mean? No reply. I left the apartment. I couldn't stay inside anymore. Every wall felt too close, every shadow too watchful. I needed people, noise, proof that I was still part of the living world. The grocery store was crowded, fluorescent lights humming overhead. The normalcy almost calmed me. Almost thought I was in the cereal aisle when it happened. An elderly woman froze mid-step. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh, my God, she whispered. I frowned. Excuse me? She backed away slowly. Fear etched deep into her face. You shouldn't be here, she said shakily. I saw you. I think you're mistaken. She shook her head violently. No, I remember. They covered you with a sheet. You weren't breathing. My heart slammed against my ribs. Where? I asked quietly. Her lips trembled. On the road. 2 years ago. She turned and fled, abandoning her cart. People stared. I stood there, frozen. The hum of the lights suddenly deafening. It didn't stop there. At the checkout counter. The cashier stared at me for too long. You look just like him, he said. Like who? He hesitated. Never mind. Outside, a man smoking near the entrance dropped his cigarette when he saw me. You're dead, he said flatly. I left without responding. By the time I reached my car, my hands were numb. They remember. People who had been there that night, who had seen my body, remembered my death. But I didn't. That night, the dream returned. No transition. No fog rolling in. I was already standing beside my grave. The number was gone. In its place, a date. Tomorrow's date. My chest tightened painfully. The man stood beside me, closer than ever before. They're noticing the error, he said. What error? I demanded. You, he replied. The ground trembled. I looked down. The grave had moved again. It was less than a foot away now. So this is it? I asked. I die tomorrow? He didn't answer directly. You were supposed to stay dead, he said instead. But you woke up. You walked away. And now the world is correcting itself. Correcting how? By reminding everyone, he said softly. Including you. The memories surged all at once. Rain pounding the windshield. A truck running a red light. The sound of bones breaking. Darkness swallowing everything. And then nothing. I fell to my knees, screaming. When I died, I gasped. I didn't see heaven. Or, the man looked almost sad. You saw us, he said. Who is us? The ones who make sure the dead stay dead. I looked at the grave again. My name gleamed brightly. So what happens now? I asked. He met my eyes. Now, he said, you have one day to fix the mistake. How? He stepped back into the fog. Find the person who pulled you out. I woke up with tears on my face. 3:17 a.m. My phone buzzed immediately. Unknown. The paramedic. I sat up. What paramedic? The one who restarted your heart. A chill ran through me. Why? The reply came slowly. Because saving you broke the rule. I stared at the message, dread crushing my chest. Outside, the fog crept along the street, thinner than before, but closer. And I knew tomorrow wasn't just a date on my grave. It was a deadline. *** Part 4. The Man Who Guards. The grave found the paramedic's name buried deep in an old police report. It took hours of digging, cross-checking articles, archived PDFs, half-broken local news links, but eventually, there it was at the bottom of a scanned document. First responder. Daniel Mercer. My hands went cold. A name shouldn't feel heavy, but this one did. I stared at it for a long time, my mind replaying the man's words from the graveyard. Find the person who pulled you out. Pulled me out of what? Death or something worse? Daniel Mercer lived only 20 minutes away. That alone felt wrong. Like the world had folded itself conveniently just to finish me off. I didn't call ahead. Some instinct told me not to. By late afternoon, dark clouds rolled in, heavy and swollen with rain. The kind of sky that felt familiar, now too familiar. I drove in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. Every red light felt longer than it should have been. Every passing truck made my heart jump. When I reached his address, my stomach twisted. The house was small, old, isolated at the edge of a dead-end road. The paint was peeling, the windows dark despite the daylight. Someone lived here, but it didn't feel like someone who slept. Knock. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I was about to turn away when the door opened an inch. A chain rattled. A man's eye appeared in the gap. Who are you? He asked. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't used it much. My name is Adrian Hawley, I said. You saved my life. The chain went slack. The door opened fully. Daniel Mercer looked nothing like I expected. He was too thin. His hair was gray despite him only being in his early 40s. Deep shadows lived permanently under his eyes. His hands trembled slightly as he stepped aside. You shouldn't have come, he said. You knew this would happen, I replied. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I was afraid of that. His house smelled like old coffee and something sour fear, maybe. Every window was covered. Thick curtains, nailed shut in places. The lights inside were dim, yellowed, like they hadn't been changed in years. You remember me? I asked. Daniel laughed softly. How could I forget? He said. You were dead. The word landed hard. I need you to tell me everything, I said. That night. What you saw. He hesitated, then motioned for me to sit. I'll tell you, he said. But once I do, you won't be able to unknow it. I already can't sleep, I replied. Go ahead. It was a normal call, Daniel began. Car accident? Severe impact. You were alone in the vehicle. No pulse, no breathing. Pupils fixed. My chest tightened as he spoke. I called time of death at 3:17 a.m. The number again. But then, he continued, his voice dropping. Something went wrong. What kind of wrong? I asked. Daniel rubbed his hands together nervously. The air changed, he said. Like pressure before a storm. And then, he arrived. My blood ran cold. Who? Daniel looked toward the covered window. The grave guard. The room felt colder instantly. He was standing right there, Daniel said, pointing to the corner. Didn't walk in. Didn't open a door. Just appeared. My throat went dry. What did he look like? Daniel swallowed, like a man who had been dead longer than time itself. I closed my eyes. The coat. The cracked skin. The empty eyes. What did he say? I whispered. Daniel's voice shook. This one is not yours to take back. I felt dizzy. I argued. Daniel continued. I shouldn't have. I told him I didn't believe in ghosts or angels or whatever he was. I said my job was to save lives. And? I asked, and he said something I'll never forget. Daniel met my eyes. Then you will guard the cost. Silence filled the room. That's when you came back, Daniel said. Your heart restarted. Against everything I knew was possible. I exhaled slowly. So why am I still alive? I asked, why didn't he stop you? Daniel's face twisted with guilt. Because I begged, he said. I told him I'd take responsibility. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the lights flickered once, twice, then they went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Daniel gasped. No, he whispered. Not yet. The temperature plummeted. I felt it immediately. The same unnatural cold from the graveyard. The fog seeped in. Under the door. Then the voice came. You were warned. The man stepped out of the darkness. The grave guard. He looked exactly as he had in my dreams, unchanged. Untouched by time. This meeting accelerates the correction, he said calmly. Daniel stood, shaking. I kept my end of the deal, he pleaded. I guarded the cost. I paid it. You delayed it, the guard replied. You did not cancel it. I stepped forward. This is about me, I said. Leave him alone. The guard's eyes shifted to me. You don't understand, he said. You don't belong where you are. What is the cost? I demanded. The guard raised a hand. The floor beneath us groaned. Room peeled away. We were standing in the graveyard, but something was different. There were more graves. Now, hundreds, thousands, all with names. All. Familiar, friends, co-workers, strangers. I'd passed on the street. What is this? I whispered. The overflow, the guard said. When one dead man walks free, others must wait longer. Daniel fell to his knees. They've been stuck, he sobbed. Because of him? The guard nodded. Life is balance, he said. And you broke it? I looked at my grave. It was inches from my feet now. The date glowed faintly. Tonight. So what do I do? I asked. The guard looked at Daniel. One of you must take the place that was abandoned. My heart pounded. You mean? I began. A life, the guard said. For a life. Daniel stood slowly. I'll do it, he said immediately. I made the choice. I'll finish it. No, I said. This is my death. The guard watched us silently. There is one more option, he said. We both looked at him. Return willingly, the guard continued. And the imbalance heals. Resist. And the grave will take more than just you. I stared at the endless rows of trapped graves. How long do I have? I asked. The guard's gaze softened. Just slightly, until the grave reaches you. The ground shifted. The soil crumbled. My grave touched my shoes. I woke up, screaming. 3:17 a.m. rain hammered against my windows. My phone buzzed. Unknown. The final choice is coming. Part of you must stay dead. I stared into the darkness of my apartment. Because now I understood the truth. I wasn't being hunted. I was being returned. Asterisk. Part 5. The date written on stone stopped. Running from the truth after part of me already died. That's The strange thing about knowing your end you. Don't panic forever. Fear burns hot at first, then it cools into something heavier. Acceptance, maybe. Or exhaustion. Rain blurred the city as dawn crawled in. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my hands, wondering which part of me was supposed to stay dead. My phone buzzed again. Unknown. Do not waste the remaining hours. How many? I typed. A pause. Less than one sleep. The memories came back stronger as the day went on. Not flashes anymore. Scenes. I remembered the argument I'd had the night of the accident. A meaningless fight. One of those moments you assume won't matter later. I remembered driving too fast. I remembered checking my phone. And I remembered the impact, not the pain, but the sound. Like the world snapping. When I closed my eyes, I could still hear it. By noon. I made my decision. I went back to the graveyard. Not the dream version. The real one. It sat on the edge of town, older than most of the buildings around it. Iron gates. Cracked stones. Trees bent inward, like they were listening. My chest tightened the moment I stepped inside. This is it, I whispered. The air grew cold. Fog crept low along the ground. Unnatural in the daylight. The grave guard stood waiting. You came on your own, he said. I needed to see it again, I replied. He gestured forward, and there it was. My grave. Perfectly clean. Perfectly new. The stone gleamed. This time. The date was complete. Adrian Hawley 199-42026 DIED at 3:17 a.m. I stared at it for a long time. This is tonight, I said quietly. Yes. I swallowed. And if I accept it? The balance is restored, the guard said. The others are released. And if I don't? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I already knew. Why me? I asked. Why show me any of this? The guard looked almost tired. Because you woke up, he said. Most don't. Then what's the point of knowing? I demanded. If the ending doesn't change? He stepped closer. So you don't cling to the wrong life, he said. So you choose correctly. The fog thickened. I felt a pull again, not physical, but deep, like gravity tugging at my soul. You're not evil, I said. You're not punishing me. No, he agreed. I am correcting. I left the graveyard before sunset. There were things I needed to do. People. I needed to see. Daniel Mercer answered his door immediately this time. He looked worse than before. I know, he said before I spoke. I feel it. The pressure's back. I'm not here to blame you, I said. I'm here to thank you. His eyes filled with tears. I wanted to save you, he whispered. And you did, I replied. Just longer than I was meant to stay. We sat in silence. Then I asked if part of me has to stay dead. What does that mean? Daniel shook his head. I don't know, but I don't think it means dying again. Not completely. That night, the dream returned one final time before the end. The grave was open now, the soil freshly turned. The guard stood beside it. Step in, he said. I looked down into the darkness. I'm afraid. I admitted. So was the first version of you, he said gently. What happens to the part that stays alive? The world keeps it, he replied. But it will never be whole. I understood then. The memories. The cracks. The people who recognize me. I wasn't supposed to feel complete again. I woke at 3:16. .m.1 minute left. My phone buzzed. Unknown. Standstill. The room felt heavy. Like it was filling with invisible water. My heart slowed. My breath shortened. And then, nothing. I woke up to sunlight. Birds. Silence. For a moment. Relief washed over me. Then I noticed something wrong. The clock read 9:42 a.m. I had slept through it. I checked. My pulse. Strong. Alive. Too alive. But when I looked in the mirror, something was missing. Fear. Maybe or joy. Or whatever makes a person feel human. I touched my chest and felt empty. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown. The date passed. The cost remains. Outside, a siren wailed. Somewhere, someone else had died at 3:17 a.m. and deep down, I knew that part of me had gone with them. Part 6. The truth behind the warning key. Didn't feel lucky to be alive. That was the first thing I noticed. People talk about surviving death like it's a miracle. Like you wake up grateful, reborn, glowing with purpose. But when I opened my eyes that morning, all I felt was absence, not sadness, not fear. Just a hollow space where something essential used to be. The world treated me like nothing had happened. Emails piled up. Messages came in asking why I'd missed work again. The city moved the same way it always had, cars honking, people arguing, life refusing to slow down just because I'd almost been erased. But I could feel it. Something fundamental had been cut away. When I laughed, it sounded rehearsed. When I smiled, it didn't reach my eyes. When I touched my chest, there was no warmth behind the heartbeat. Daniel noticed immediately. "You crossed the line," he said quietly when I met him later that day. "Didn't you?" "I didn't die," I replied. He shook his head. "That's not what I meant." The memories came back wrong now, not as pain, but as knowledge. I remembered the moment my heart restarted 2 years ago. But now I also remembered something else. A place beyond the graveyard. A corridor, endless. White stone walls etched with names that hadn't happened yet. "That's where they keep the warnings," I said aloud without realizing it. Daniel stiffened. "You remember it too?" he asked. I looked at him sharply. "You've been there." His face drained of color. "They showed it to me when I begged," he admitted. "I thought it was a hallucination." "No," I said. "It's real." That's when it hit me. The graveyard wasn't the beginning. It was the last checkpoint. That night, the guard came without fog. Without dreams. He stood in my apartment. Solid and undeniable. "You survived incorrectly," he said. "So what am I now?" I asked. He studied me carefully. An echo. The word chilled me. "You're not fully alive," he continued, "and no longer fully claimed." Daniel stepped forward. "Then fix it. Take him back." The guard shook his head. The deadline passed. The correction adjusted. "To what?" I demanded. "To you," he replied. He showed us the truth. The accident 2 years ago wasn't random. I had died exactly when I was meant to. But when? Daniel restarted my heart. The system didn't simply lose me, it duplicated me. One version crossed fully. One version stayed. I was the leftover. "The grave you saw," the guard explained, "was never empty. You were visiting the part of yourself that didn't wake up." My stomach twisted. "So what did I give up last night?" I asked. He met my eyes. "The living half," he said. "What remains is the memory-bearing shell." Daniel whispered, "A walking death." "No," the guard corrected. "A reminder." The warnings weren't meant to save me. They were meant to prepare the world. People recognizing me. The grave moving closer. The date appearing. All signs that reality was realigning. "You exist to close the gap," the guard said. "To absorb the imbalance until it stabilizes." "And after that?" I asked. Silence. "After that," he said, "you fade." I stopped sleeping after. Not because I was afraid of the dreams, because I didn't dream. Anymore. No fog. No graveyard. No fear. Just blank. Darkness. Like something essential had been unplugged. I started noticing changes. Mirrors lagged behind me by half a second. Animals avoided me. Photographs blurred when I appeared in them. People forgot conversations they'd had with me hours earlier. I was becoming thin. Not physically. ISTNT. ILLY. 3 days later. Daniel collapsed at work. Heart attack. No warning. No history. He died at 3:17 a.m. The news article appeared by morning. I stared at it. Numb. The guard stood behind me. "The debt closes," he said. "I didn't want that," I whispered. "No," he agreed. "But you allowed it." The truth hit harder than any horror I'd faced so far. By staying. By refusing to return completely, I had become the collector. "You could end this," the guard said. "How?" I asked. "Step fully into the grave," he replied. "Rejoin what was separated. And if I don't?" He looked at the city beyond my window. "Then others will continue paying." Sirens wailed in the distance. I felt it now, each one tugging at me, feeding the hollow space inside my chest. I wasn't cursed. I was hungry. And I was running out of time to choose what kind of monster I would become. Asterisk. Part 7. When the grave opened, she knew how it would end before it ended. That was the cruelest part. Not fear. Not pain. Not death. Certainty. The city felt thinner now, like a poorly rendered image that hadn't finished loading. People moved past me without really seeing me. Sometimes they bumped into me and apologized, then looked confused like they weren't sure who they were apologizing to. I stopped showing up in reflections entirely. Mirrors showed empty rooms. Store windows showed passing cars, but not me. I still cast a shadow. That was how I knew I hadn't faded yet. The guard didn't follow me anymore. He didn't need to. I could feel the pull of the grave wherever I went. Like gravity had chosen a single direction and refused to let go. Every death fed the hollow place. Inside me. Every siren made it ache. And the worst part, it felt good. Not emotionally. Physically. Like scratching an itch you didn't know you had. That's when I understood the final truth. The grave wasn't chasing me. It was waiting. I returned to the graveyard on my own the fourth night after Daniel's death. No fog this time. No distortion. Just moonlight and cold air and iron gates that opened without a sound. My grave was already open. The dirt lay piled neatly beside it. As if prepared. As if patient. The guard stood at the head of it, hands folded. You've decided, he said. I haven't, I replied. I just got tired of pretending I hadn't. He nodded once. That is usually how it ends. I looked down into the grave. It wasn't dark. It was deep. Too deep. Like it didn't end in soil, but in distance. What happens if I step in? I asked. You rejoin what was separated, the guard said. The echo collapses. The dead ends. And the deaths? I asked. He met my eyes. They stop. I exhaled slowly. And if I walk away? The guard looked past me toward the city. Then you continue, he said. And so does the cost. I laughed. A dry, broken sound. You should have just dragged me in the first time. I said. We cannot force completion, he replied. Only offer correction. That's convenient. It is necessary. I stepped closer to the grave. The air grew heavier. Memories I hadn't lived surged up. Faces I didn't know. Lives cut short. Moments stolen to balance my existence. I felt them all. They weren't punishments. They were fuel. That was the real horror. I wasn't being hunted. I was being maintained. Why show me any of this? I asked one last time. Why not let me fade without knowing? The guard's voice softened. Because awareness is the only thing that can choose mercy. I looked down again, and finally understood. The part of me that died 2 years ago wasn't waiting for me. It was already complete. I was the unfinished thing. I stepped into the grave. The earth didn't close. The world didn't end. Nothing dramatic happened at all. I stood at the bottom, surrounded by stone walls that stretched upward impossibly far. The guard's voice echoed down to me. Do you accept return? Yes, I said. The word tasted like relief. And grief, and something like peace. The memories slammed into place. The corridor. The warning chamber. The moment my heart stopped. And then unity. I felt myself compress. Fold inward, seal. The hollow place vanished. So did the hunger. So did me. They buried the grave the next morning. No name. No dates. Just soil returning to soil. The city went on. The death stopped clustering. Sirens returned to their normal rhythm. Balance restored. But here's the part no one tells. You sometimes, when the world makes a mistake big enough, it doesn't erase the echo completely. Late at night, when the fog rolls in just right, people swear they see a man standing at the edge of old graveyards. Watching. Waiting. Not warning. Just observing. Because the truth is, I didn't disappear. I learned. And now I understand what the guard always knew. Death isn't the end. It's quality. Control. And sometimes, when The grave opens, something stays behind to make sure it never happens again. End asterisk.